Welcome to the On a Mission Mojo podcast, where I have the pleasure of interviewing impact-driven founders, entrepreneurs, authors, and business experts who are actively working to create a positive difference in our world. I'm your host, Lori Young, a branding specialist, certified master marketer, and a passionate advocate for brands that possess heart, soul, and an unwavering commitment to drive change for humanity. It takes grit, a visionary mindset, and an abundance of mojo to navigate this journey. And the stories I share will undoubtedly ignite your passion. If you're seeking an infusion of inspiration, motivation, and valuable insights to amplify your impact, let's dive right in. Welcome to episode 29 of On a Mission Mojo podcast. We have a very unique topic today, or should I say a unique approach to personal development for men. So let me introduce our guest. Michael Overlie is a canine-partnered men's guide, a dog lover, and author. He helps men liberate their lives utilizing the relationship with their dogs. I met Michael on LinkedIn and saw some of his content, and his tagline just totally grabbed my attention. I was like, well, that is unique. And I always like to bring on brands that I feel are unique and have just a different edge to them. So thank you, Michael, for being here. And let's just start by sharing with the listeners kind of like what you do, like what your mission is in the world.
Oh God, my mission is to help men pull their heads out of their butts.
Okay. Right. That's direct.
That's the short of it. And I have a little bit of an edge. So I will see how dull I can keep that. So it's quite amazing how people act around different people or their animals, and they don't understand or maybe realize the different masks that they put on in different situations. Mm-hmm. And we're so versatile, and yet we're so shut down in so many ways. It's quite fascinating. And my experience with dogs in my life has just shown me more and more about who I actually am. Mm-hmm. Then I don't have to worry about what everybody else is thinking, and I still get caught up in it. But it's just amazing, and dogs literally kept me alive throughout my life, through some dark periods and things like that. And I had a dog was a catalyst for my growth, my major change in my life as well. So that's what I want to do. I want to help others see that animal sitting at their feet is more than just a comfort measure.
Got it. So tell me about this change that you made and how your dog at that time was the catalyst for the change. I'm sure there's a story behind why you do what you do.
So it was March 18th, 2017. My older brother died that day, and it was very sudden, but not unexpected. He'd had a lot of health issues, but I wasn't ready for the amount of grief I had after that.
Right.
And it literally took me out. And I found myself one day, laying back in this recliner and rolling around, writhing in pain and crying and just, I lost everything in my world to that point, because my brother was the one man in my life I could count on. So, he was just all of a sudden gone.
Right.
Now, what came from that, I had this awakening of sorts. I was able to see myself differently. I saw how I'd been showing up in the world, and I didn't like that other guy. Okay. And so I realized immediately, oh my gosh, I need to change this. Mm-hmm. I really need to do something about this. And I had this beautiful dog,
okay,
a little pit bull mix from a dog fighting thing. And he crawls up on my chest and just lays across me and just hammers me with like healing love and energy. And it was like, he's like, okay, you're ready. Let's go do this thing. Mm-hmm. And I started becoming more and more aware of him and his mannerisms and behavior and all these different things. And I'm like, he's trying to show me things. and I realized he was always trying to show me things, and I just
Right.
wasn't able to pay attention to that. So that was the event, and then he was the catalyst for the actual change, because I'm like, oh, he's showing me how I can actually be who my true self is.
So I'm curious about that in terms of like, what are like some of the things like that he showed you, or like, what are the things that I guess you realized about yourself through him?
Great question. So one of the things, I was angry. I was so angry most of my life, but I didn't realize it. For me, it was just a constant state. It wasn't this come and go thing. And I would see him interact with another dog, maybe a dog who was trying to, get a little aggressive with him or whatever, and he would handle himself, and then immediately, I mean, in no time at all, he could just, okay, it's over, and get on with my day. We create stories around events, and we hold grudges and judgment and all these other things that we just pile on top of ourselves. So that was one of the things he first showed me. He goes, you're still going to get mad. You can still get angry, but then you can let it go. Right. And it was
Right.
just fascinating. And,
Yeah.
a million other things. But one of my other favorites is you don't have to do anything right this second. You can just sit and observe.
Yes. Dogs are good at that, aren't they? I talk to my spouse and I'm like, I don't know that I could be a dog. Like, I feel like their life is so boring. Like they just sit there and like do nothing. Sometimes they play. I have a 14, almost 14-year-old dog. And so she has kind of stopped playing. Last night, surprisingly, she started to play with her one and only toy that she's ever played with, and I thought, "Whoa, where's this life coming from?" She has not played with this toy in months, but it's true. Like dogs can just kind of sit and observe and do nothing, and that's hard for human beings.
Yeah. So in Buddhism and in Zen Buddhism in particular, there's all these practices around stillness and quieting the mind and
Yes.
these other things that actually help us become more aware, right? So stop running around with your head cut off, sit down for a minute, try and turn this thing off if you can, or let the thoughts go by, and then you can make a better decision from that place instead of out of reaction or fear or sense of lack or scarcity. It's really
Right.
interesting.
Yeah.
Dogs are masters.
Yes, yeah. They what I love about dogs is no matter what, they are so loyal that you are their best friend no matter what. Like you could do all kinds of things. Not that I'm saying that I do this, but like even people that are so horrible to dogs, those dogs are so loyal to them. And it's like, why can't we learn from them how to provide unconditional love?
And that's it right there, isn't it?
Yes.
We are so conditioned as human beings, mother, father, teacher, preacher, coaches, whatever it was, they all had their own expectations of how we need to show up in the world, and we take that on. And the dogs just don't have that. They see right through all of our crap. So even if we're mean, grumpy, nasty, whatever, they see through that. They know what's underneath all of that, and they're trying to give that more attention and love.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. So you are an author. Tell us, is this a book that you've written?
I have written one, co-authored another, and I'm working on another. So
Okay.
the first
First,
book is called "Let Your Dog Lead,"
okay.
and it was due to Darby, the wonder dog, who was there for me after my brother died, and some of the lessons he started to show me and the things I started to wake up to. That was written then. It came out in 21, September of
2021.
21, I believe.
Okay. So what were some of the like tell me some of the highlights from that book, Let Your Dog Lead? Because it's funny because a lot of dog trainers or whatever will tell you that you need to be the leader of the pack, right? And you need to lead your dog. And so this is kind of the opposite of what, like, a dog trainer, for instance, would say: let your dog lead. What happens when your dog leads?
Oh, magic. So we are we're always striving to control everything around us, right? As
Mm-hmm.
humans on this planet. And we miss so much because of it. And we do things that we're not supposed to be doing. People get hurt because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Dogs just have a different way of moving through the world. And obviously, they don't have to, pay rent or car
Right.
payments or go to the grocery store. But the way they move through every other situation is pretty much commendable. It's
Mm-hmm.
pretty much commendable. So I I'm an anti-trainer,
Okay. Okay.
and I'm actually about to start something new and telling people don't train your dogs. Let's get your head squared away first before you try and control your animal.
Okay.
That's going to be my new thing moving forward. But and it's funny because I know a lot of trainers, right? Because I'm
Mm-hmm.
in the dog world. I know a
Right.
lot of trainers, and everybody's got their specialties, but it's still the same thing. It's about conditioning and controlling, and we don't even stop to ask. Just because I can doesn't mean I should, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's really something. So I've got a beautiful Belgian Shepherd who's
Okay.
she's a pistol, right? She's a pistol on fire, full on military working dog style dog. Came from a rescue, right?
Okay.
That's my thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was trying so hard to train her early on, and I was just making things worse. And I got this hit one day. She's like, "You're not respecting me." And I was like,
Mm.
"Oh, oh crap, you're right." I was being, mighty human, me, big
Right.
man, big brain, doesn't work. And she's like, "Just let me be a dog." And so, yeah, things got a lot better after that. So,
And so I guess, what are some of the things that, when you're like working with clients, what are some of the dog behaviors that come up that make it kind of teachable moments for your clients?
People have this whole thing about aggressive, right? We term things as aggressive. Something scares us, we call it aggressive, whether it's a human or a dog. So I love working with people with reactive dogs, reactive animals, because there's actually a lesson in there for them.
Okay.
Right? I mean, any relationship in your life, if someone upsets you, there's something for you to work on, right?
And
There's
describe reactive, like,
like lunging at bikes, lunging at other dogs, lunging at someone who comes in the door, or whatever it is.
okay,
There's something that the dog doesn't like, and it wants the bad thing to go away, so it's doing what it knows how to do, and we want them to just stop that. Instead
right.
of trying to figure out what's going on and working with that, we want to take a pill, right? I want to take a
Hmm.
pill for that. I want to fix it like that.
Yeah.
So those are my favorite because and men we have a hard time accepting information in the form of advice from about anyone. Um,
Okay.
so it's challenging. It is challenging, and I mean I've worked with gelato manufacturers and retired special forces guys, right? So
Hmm.
um, and they're just people. They're just
Right.
people with different titles, right?
Yeah, I
So.
think, men especially, but, some women too, the ego plays a big role in their lives, and needing to be in a place of power and control, right? And I think that's when your dog is deemed out of control, like you don't have control over your dog, the first reaction is to get control of the dog, right? Instead of understanding. It's funny because I can relate to figuring out, like, what is going on with me when I have like such a reaction to my dog. Like, it's like she is here to teach me so many things. My dog has extreme separation anxiety. She wasn't always like that. She's more like that now. And I don't know if it's part of kind of her doggy dementia. I don't know if it's just, she just feels anxious. But I'm always, whenever, like, we'll go in a car and it's like, I'll feel guilty. It's like, okay, fine, Chica, you can come with us. Cause I know she hates to be away from us. So I bring her in the truck with us, and my spouse gets out of the car to go into the store while I stay with Chica, and she immediately goes into just high stress mode, like like where's she going, and I find myself often going, oh my God, like, what is wrong with you? Why are you so anxious? She will be back. Like, it just, and I have to stop myself and go, what is going on with me? Like, why am I so impatient with her in this moment? How can I mean, it's like her anxiety has generated anxiety in me. And so now my anxiety is probably fueling her anxiety. It's probably like just this vicious cycle. I really don't know. But one of the things that I've been like trying to practice is just kind of being calm, like just letting her work through her emotions, work through her anxiety, but not reacting to it, and just kind of just being calm. And I find that she's settling down a little bit more. Mm-hmm. She's taking more of a approach. Okay, well, let me just stand up here on the steering wheel and look around and see if I see my human coming back. She's calmer about it, instead of, jumping into the back seat and up to the front seat and back to the back seat and up to the front seat, and which drove me crazy. There are so many lessons my dog is giving me. It's like, she's older now, and I think she has some doggy dementia. And so she's forgetting that she's supposed to go potty outside. And so she'll just kind of squat and pee in the middle of the floor, which sometimes can just send me over the edge. It's like, what are you doing? Like, you're peeing in the middle of the floor, better. But then it's like, no, maybe you don't. Maybe you've forgotten. Maybe you need to have compassion, Lori. Maybe you need to understand this is an old dog who is confused, who has a weak bladder, who maybe is feeling some anxiety, and so her reaction is to pee on the floor. So I'm trying to come to, she's teaching me, about my own emotions. And then I go back and I'm guilty. Like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, Chica. I'm so sorry. Yeah, it's funny. Like, your dogs can really, really teach you valuable lessons.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And there's more, right? We could get into 100 different things, but we remain so unaware of ourselves and our animals. Like, let's say you don't have an older dog, you've got a 5-year-old dog, and for some reason they start peeing in the house where they weren't before. Well, don't just punish them. There's something going on, right? Maybe they've got a bladder infection. Maybe there's something else in the house that changed, and the dog is now stressed as hell, and that's a stress release. Mm-hmm. We don't know, right? But immediately we're so quick to punish in this society as a whole. Mm-hmm. Instead of saying, "Oh man, what was that about? I wonder. Come here, you're okay. I'm not going to smack you. Come here. Let's just sit here for a minute. We're okay."
Right.
We want the bad thing to go away, right? So we start breaking or throwing things or hitting things or whatever. It's fantastic. They're constantly trying to work with us.
Yes. I'm curious, like, when you work with clients, like, and in their dogs, I would just imagine that as the relationship changes with their dog, obviously the relationship changes with themselves, and thus can change with other members of the family, like children or their wife or whoever might be in the house. I mean, or do you find that happens?
Yeah, that's why I'm smiling so big, because that's the whole purpose of this internal discovery, is realizing, oh, I can actually change. It's up to me to change. I've got a partner next to me with four legs who's trying to help me. And then you just, the ripples that come from that are just amazing. Yeah, there's a special forces guy I'd worked with some time ago, and he, full army of one guy, right? And just a beautiful man underneath, but this tough exterior.
Right.
And disassociated with his family. Didn't like going home because his wife and kid, and he was having a lot of other issues.
Sure.
But he's been doing his thing, and he's got two dogs, and he loves those dogs.
Okay.
And he told me a couple of weeks ago that he's talking to his folks again, and he actually started talking to his brother, who he hadn't talked to in years.
Wow.
So I'm not taking any credit, but I'll give the dogs the credit. But it was just for him to be able to have enough curiosity to get into that awareness and start to do work from that place. So that's beautiful, right? That's beautiful. He could have become a statistic very easily, and now he's trying to repair some stuff. So that makes me really happy.
Yeah, I feel like, and maybe maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like dogs are a safer and maybe easier way to start to explore self-awareness than human beings. I mean, is that true? Because dogs aren't going to argue back with you. Dogs aren't going to I don't know, it's kind of like, do you have there's only so much you can blame on a dog, right? It's like I mean, let's just be real. They're pretty cool living beings. And yeah, they do things like, tear up stuff and but in the end, there's not that much we can blame on dogs. At some point we have to kind of say, what is it about me, right, that I need to be looking at?
Yeah. How, anytime we have a reaction to something, and I'll get back to the other part in a second. Anytime you or I react to something, that means there's something for us to look at.
Right.
And we want, this person's behavior to change so that I feel better about myself. Well, come on, that's never going to happen. And yet we keep trying that.
Right.
Yeah. So there's just so, and you can use the term mirror. Anytime there's something comes up, that person is a mirror for something inside of me. So, so the dogs, let's go back to safety. Dogs they're just safe. They are so safe. A buddy of mine is a marriage coach back in Jersey. And he calls me when he has a certain situation. It's usually wife, husband having a hard time. Husband's hiding with the dogs, hanging out with them, taking them some other places, doesn't want to be at home with the family. And the most recent one I spoke with, he got the wife on the phone. He goes, "Hey, do you have time?" "Yeah, let's get her on the phone." So I spoke with her and I explained to her why her husband's hiding in the basement with the dogs. Because the more he was distancing himself, the harder she was pushing him to not distance himself.
Right.
So he was retreating further and further, and hanging out with the dogs was safe because they're not going to give him a hard time.
Right.
They have no expectations. Right. They're not judging him.
Right.
Their energy is going to immediately soften him and get access to that place in him that needs healing. So he wasn't getting that upstairs.
No.
And not criticizing his wife at all.
Right, exactly.
But his perception was that upstairs dangerous, down here safe. Right? My dogs are safe. I'd rather hang out with them. And I actually know that place. I was in a similar place in my own marriage years ago.
Right. Now, do you ever Do you ever like ask the question, like use the dog as the mirror, kind of like, what would your dog, what is your dog seeing about you? Or how might your dog be seeing you right now? Like, what, I'm just curious, like, how do you like mirror that relationship between the dog and the human and to promote like self-awareness?
Yeah. Can I can I use a curse word?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of my favorite words when I'm working with guys is, your dog's trying to tell you how much of a dick you're being right now. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Because again, we have this, I'm a human, that's just a dog, and we start to cut ourselves off from whatever those messages are that are trying to come through. And your dog's behavior, in a lot of cases, is a direct reflection of what you're doing
Mm-hmm.
or what you're
Mm-hmm.
feeling, your energy, your emotions, whatever that is. So,
Right.
oh yeah, I'm not gentle sometimes
Mm-hmm.
to make a point.
Sure.
So if you're working with an animal who's in this crazy state, you want to try and break that state so they get out of it, right? So that you can help them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same thing with people.
Right. Yep. Yep. So walk me through, because I just want to get kind of like a vision and give listeners like a vision of what it's like to work with you. Like, what do these like sessions? Just assuming that you're doing like kind of like coaching sessions. Is that correct?
Hmm.
Okay. So like walk me through like what does a typical like session look like, and how you integrate the dogs into that session.
Well, we start with the relationship with the animal, right?
Okay.
So like a case history, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
And the depth of that bond and the willingness to work with that is it's paramount for the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a relationship,
Right.
right? And every other person we're doing anything with in our lives is a relationship. But if we have one that we can really base something sound off of, something that's deeper than others, like I know guys who have much better relationships with their dogs than their wives,
Mm-hmm. Right.
their dogs than their parents or their siblings. And it's because that it's a safe space, and a lot of other things. Unconditional love is part of that. But we want to know where that bond lies, right? How much are you able to give that dog, right? And how much, or are you just taking? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's we start to form a pretty good picture here of what's going on in this person's life
Sure.
by how
Mm-hmm.
they're interacting and responding with that animal. So maybe we need to deepen that bond a little bit. So we give them things to do, deepen that bond a little bit, and it's
With the
easy
dog.
stuff with the dog. Yes,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because we want that core to be solid yet fluid,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we're trying to create change. So it needs to have a strength that we can work through. So it all starts with that bond with that dog. So like people ask, would you recommend someone runs out and get a dog? I mean, if you don't have a dog and you're willing to do this work and you're willing to go there, then sure. But for me, I like it when people have an established relationship with their animal, because there's just more information available. So
So I would imagine, because I actually know a couple of our friends who have two pugs, and the wife is very attached to these dogs. The husband is like, I could do without these dogs. Like, I don't really, they're in my life because my wife wants them in her life. How would you coach a man who has a dog in the house or dogs in the house, but doesn't really want anything to do with them?
well, we'd have to try and understand what his wife is getting from the dogs that she's not getting in the other relationships in her life,
Mm-hmm.
or these things that she can't give to herself, which is usually the case, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what is it that she can't not have because of the dogs,
Right.
and how can she begin to ask for that? So it's just creating the awareness from the man's side that, like, oh, you didn't see these 37 things that she's trying to communicate but doesn't know how.
Right. Right. Very cool. Um, let's switch gears just a little bit and talk like a little bit about business. How long have you been like running your business, this business here?
About 3 years.
About 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And tell me how's it been? Like, what are some of the challenges that you've faced in trying to grow your business? I mean, it's a unique concept. I'm just wondering, is this like catching on like wildfire? Like, oh wow, this is cool, or are you up against challenges?
Oh, no, it's not wildfire. It's not wildfire. It's again, I threaten a lot of guys by challenging them as to how they're showing up in the world. Um,
Okay.
but some are willing to rise to the call as they realize that they're unhappy enough to do something about it. Right.
Sure.
And that's what it takes for a lot of us. I mean, I had to lose my brother to wake up.
Yeah.
So
Right.
my challenges. Oh my gosh, I've had tech stuff because I don't consider myself a tech person.
Hmm.
Um, different websites and platforms, and I get so impatient. I recently tried to start a community around the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. I didn't take my own advice. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Okay.
And it was, it went just total crapper. But which is fine, right? I'm
Right.
I'm willing to experiment.
Hmm.
But somebody who knows me very well said he's like, you gotta stop trying to show up as somebody you're not.
Okay.
So that's why I changed my rhetoric back again to the not pulling punches, and I'm gonna upset some people,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that's okay. I'm not here to be everybody's best friend, but
Right.
I'm here to help as many as I can. So, um, so yeah, we've got some other things coming up. I'm hosting a summit next
Hmm.
week.
I saw that. Uh huh.
Yep. So that's going to be pretty cool. And that's somewhat along the same lines. Becoming the man you needed when you were young is
Yeah,
kind of
I liked that. I liked that tag because I think a lot of men that are struggling probably didn't have the male role model that they needed when they were younger, which is why they're struggling to be the male role model that they want to be in the world, right? Because they're kind of going from maybe nothing or a toxic relationship with a male role model that has hurt them, and they have to heal from that.
got it.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I'm not as busy as I would like to be, and that's okay. I'm still working on it. I've been on dozens of podcasts and radio
Podcast.
shows, and done a lot of that. And
Hmm.
I'm doing something no one's ever done, as far as I know.
Exactly. Yes.
So it'll take
Exactly.
some time to get some street cred.
Absolutely. I remember I back in 2004, I got my coaching certification, and I decided I was going to coach moms. And at the time, like coaching, first of all, was really in the infant stages, right? Like not a lot of people knew what coaching was. Today, coaching is like everyone knows what coaching is, right? Back then, not at all. And coaching moms, like there were like no mom coaches. And so I had like the biggest hurdles. Like not only did I need to educate people on what coaching was, but I had to educate people on why coaching was needed for moms and how it could benefit them. So it's the same kind of thing for you. Like I said when we first started, like you have a unique edge, a unique way to approach personal development with men. And it's cool. But like you said, not a lot of people are doing it. And so people are going to be like, like, does this actually work? But it sounds like, it just takes time. You're still a newbie in business, and it will catch on. And the more that you could do, like, it would be great if you could do some like video kind of video sessions, with men that have and their dogs, like and what they've learned from their dog. That would be cool to hear.
You are the fourth person who's told me that recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'm like, okay. So I'm actually going to do a YouTube channel and start recording this stuff and putting it on there.
Yeah, because first of all, people love dogs,
Hmm.
right? So if you can get dogs in the picture, like people are going to be interested in dogs. You know, you can't have just the man. I think you have to have the man with his dog,
Yeah.
because people love dogs, and that to me is a draw. I mean, I can't tell you how many Instagram reels I watch on dogs.
Yeah.
It's because they're so cool, and just the way we humanize dogs, is funny. So if you could do that, I feel like it would really bring, I just bring out the essence of what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough to describe. Um,
Yes.
the concept of if you can't explain it to a 5-year-old, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I do is tough to describe to a 5-year-old.
Right. True. Very true. Yes, very
Yeah.
true. And so you need people to talk about their experience and how it has transformed their life to be working in relationship with their dog and you, of course. Cuz I mean, let's face it, you're a catalyst that's also bringing about that self-awareness.
Yeah.
So anyway, just a little thing. So let's close out the show and talk about mojo. Like, what is your personal mojo or your magical superpower that you bring to our world?
I have the ability to hold space for someone like nobody else I've ever met.
Okay.
So the deepest, darkest, nastiest, most shameful, judgmental things that we try and hide from everybody else, I can hold that for people.
Mm,
Um, I get on calls with people, and I don't believe I just shared that with you.
mm,
It's an energy I have, and
sure.
it's an integrity I have too. That whatever is said stays there,
Right.
right?
Absolutely.
So people know that they can trust me.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm willing to share anything. I let people ask me anything about myself
Hmm.
because I want them to understand that in order for me to be authentic, I have to be totally vulnerable,
Sure.
right?
Absolutely.
So, vulnerable has such a negative connotation in our society. It's actually a superpower. It's not a
Mm,
detriment. It's fascinating, people. Um, if you can unburden yourself from something, that takes strength. That's not
yes.
weakness.
Absolutely.
So, anyway, so my mojo is I can hold anybody in their stuff, no matter what it is, without judgment.
Yeah, and you're able to do that because you are walking your talk. If you are able to be open book and vulnerable with the world, then you show people that it's safe and nothing's going to happen. You're not going to like break down and fall apart if you are open and vulnerable yourself.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
So thank you so much, Michael, for everything that you shared today. And just thank you for the work that you're doing in this world. And I hope that more people listen to this and start to just ask questions like, this is interesting. Like, how can I transform myself through my relationship with my dog? I definitely know that I work on myself through little Chica, and I know I will be so sad when Chica goes. But March 5th, we will be celebrating her 14th birthday. So
Wow.
yeah, so thank you again.
Oh, thank you so much. Give Chica a hug for us.
Okay, all right. That's a wrap on today's episode. Thank you for tuning in to the On a Mission Mojo podcast. Ready to dive into more incredible stories of people on a mission? Next week, I'll return with a fresh episode to ignite your passion for creating a better world. If you loved what you heard, be sure to subscribe, leave a glowing review, and spread the word to all your friends. Head over to onamissionbrands.com for more great episodes. Remember, the world needs your mojo, so go out there and let your brilliance shine.